Hello, everybody, and welcome into another draft preview here at the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and we are going to do the Buffalo Sabres in this video. I've got Zach Berta here, who covers the Sabres here at the Hockey Writers. Zach, how's it going?
Doing good. Kind of the draft is more of an anticipation feeling at this point because the Sabres are all up in the news, but I'm excited to be here and join you, and thank you very much.
For sure. Yeah, the Sabres are, they've been in the news probably the last, month, maybe?
Yeah.
In trade rumors, different things that could happen, haven't happened yet. A couple of their bigger players potentially maybe being moved, JJ Peterka, Bowen Byram being the two biggest names. Alex Tuck has kind of been in the news as well in the rumors, but that seems to not be something that could happen. I mean, but you never know. We're going to talk about that later on in the show, but let's start with the draft. And Zach, I want to talk to you first about their strategy overall going into this draft. I mean, they've got another high pick, lots of prospects. They got, I'd say one of the top, they're probably top 5 in prospect pools right now. A lot of great players, lots of different types of players, skill wise and forward group. Maybe the defense isn't as strong, maybe in young guys. But what is their strategy going into this? Are they picking like for need or just keep adding to the coffers?
I think at this rate, with how many forward prospects and such a logjam they have up front on the forward group, I think you have to go for need, which is a top tier defensive prospect. And I have a couple of guys in names that I'll mention later on. But the Sabres, unless a guy like somehow Porter Martone falls to 9th overall, which I don't have him falling outside of the top 10 in my mock draft, but I've seen some mock drafts where Chicago takes a guy like Frendell, and all of a sudden Martone's falling to the Sabres at 9. In that case, take best player available. Of course, you're going to add him. He'll be NHL ready, if not this season, next season at the latest. But with the draft inside the top 15 specifically being so center heavy, and you have 4 defensemen. Matthew Zator, he's going first overall, most likely, unless something changes. He's been pretty much the consensus for the past 2-3 months. And then after that, you have Radim Murka, Aitchison, and Jackson Smith. And if Murka is there at 9, I say the Sabres, you take him. He's 6'6". He has a long reach. He is one of the better shutdown defensemen in this entire draft. He can have a physical game if he needs to be. And I think Aitchison is my second pick. You have a guy of Aitchison who is one of the most physical players in this entire draft as a whole. As a defenseman, he can shut down rushes, shut down transition. He can do everything. And we saw an uptick, not only goals, but also offensive production this past season. He tripled his goal total from, I believe it was 8 to 26 or something ridiculous like that. And I think those are the 2 players that if they're available at 9th overall, and they decide not to trade the 9th overall pick, I say you go ahead and take it. But the number 1 draft strategy for the Sabres, in my opinion, is just trade the pick. I see they're more likely to trade the pick than to keep it, especially if they can package up the 9th for pending RFA Bowen Byram and ship that off for a top 6 forward or a top 4 defense partner for Owen Power, maybe even Darlene, whoever knows. But nonetheless, though, I want to say they're going to end up trading the 9th overall pick.
I mean, that seems to be looks like that's the theory. Everyone kind of looking at that, especially with those 2 guys, Peterka and Byram, being potentially traded. You add that 9th overall pick, the guy you're getting in return is probably going to be a pretty good asset. Either, and most likely be a player, because they're not going to be wanting another prospect. I think they've got enough of those. They want some NHL-ready guys that are going to make an impact on the lineup and push them finally to the playoffs that could hit 15 years. That's insane to me. Next season, if they don't make it. So I think they want to break that, and that's the way to do it, right? All right. Well, assuming they do keep the 9th overall pick, you did mention a few names there. Who are you looking at the most? I mean, you mentioned the defenseman. There's obviously going to be some great centermen there, but I mean, the Sabres are pretty good down the middle. I mean, they could maybe use a guy, but who are you targeting the most? Is it those like Aitchison, or are you looking more at someone else?
Merca and Aitchison are 1A and 1B for me. I think one of those two is probably going to be taken 8th overall by Seattle, I think, considering Seattle needs young defensemen so bad. And whichever one of those guys gets taken, Sabres takes the other one, unless Jackson Smith is off the board at 8 and Seattle kind of shocks the world in a way, but you never know. Crazier stuff has happened. And then if you look over at forward, if the Sabres do go that, let's say they want to add another loaded prospect for. I mean, they already have Consta Helenius to their prospect pool in last year's draft, who's also a center. If they go a guy like Roger McQueen, who's getting comparisons to Tage Thompson, 6'5", very lanky, has a great shot, a good skater. Now you're just getting even more of a logjam, although Roger McQueen is a tough prospect to pass up on, especially with a lot of top 10 potential and a potential first-line center upside in the peak of his career. And Victor Eklund, also a left winger who is most likely going to be available. I compare him a lot to Cole Caulfield. His shot's very underrated, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. I think his hockey IQ also is very underrated, and overall, I think he is one of the better offensive playmakers in this draft class. So I really look at the 5 guys overall: Jackson Smith, Kashawn Aitchison, Radim Merca, Victor Eklund, Roger McQueen, and again, if somehow Porter Martone falls in 9th overall, those are really the guys that I'm looking at for the Sabres to draft.
Yeah, I mean, the way that there's been talk about that Frondell could go to the Blackhawks, and that would really change a lot of the draft board at that point. It does sound like the San Jose Sharks are going to be taking Misa, even though they're kind of maybe throwing some smoke in there. I don't think that they're going to take Frondell. I think they're taking Misa. They're just kind of maybe throwing some stuff in there. But, I mean, you never know. Stuff happens. We didn't know that what the Ducks have done the last 2 drafts with kind of messing up the top of the draft there. Beckett Seneca going 3rd overall. I don't think anyone saw that coming. That kind of changed the board a bit. So, I mean, there could be some stuff happening, and Porter Martone may drop to, I don't know about 9th overall. That seems to be a bit crazy. I think Martone, if he does, again, if the Blackhawks do change things, he's not going to fall past 5. I don't see it, but again, we didn't think Shane Wright was going to drop so as much as he did. And it looks like James Hagens may drop into 6. The Flyers may be able to get him there. There's going to be so much fun times being at that top of the draft, which I didn't think would be. But you never know what could happen at 9th overall if the Sabres do keep that pick, that is. All right, one pick they probably will keep. I mean, you never know again, and they may trade this second round pick too because it's a high value pick. May throw it into another deal. They do got 1 second-round pick. Who are you looking in the 2nd round for the Sabres?
So I have 3 guys listed off. Peyton Kettles, who's another big body defenseman, depending on if they trade that 9th overall pick or decide to go best player available and take a forward. Max Seneca, I really hope that P is silent. He's also another defenseman. And I'm sorry if I butcher this centerman's name. Ivan Rabkin. I really hope that's how you pronounce it. But he, in the beginning of the year, he was at the top of a lot of people's draft boards, and he has fallen drastically over the past 6 months. And I look at him, and again, I know it's not a need for the Sabres, but if Rabkin is available, I think he is a best player available. You take him no matter what. Just his skill set, his offensive IQ, his playmaking ability. The fact that he's potentially being talked about falling all the way to the 3rd round is ridiculous. And he's going to be one of the steals of the draft if he falls to whether it's 39th overall, which is the Sabres 2nd round pick, or whether it's to the 3rd round. He's going to be one of the top steals of the draft. And maybe in 5 years, we're going to be talking about now, not to this extent of Kucherov or Kaprizov taken outside of the 1st round and in the 5th round or whatever, but talking about how did this player fall to the middle 2nd round or to the 3rd round at some point.
Rabkin's an interesting one. I think we've talked about him on Prospect Corner a few times, that he could be a guy that will be available in those later rounds, and he will be a steal. I mean, even if he does drop just into the 2nd round, he's a 1st-round talent. And yes, he struggled in the North American game when he did come over. And there's been some stuff about his attitude maybe is also a little bit of a red flag. So I don't know. We'll see what kind of happens there. But some teams are really comfortable with taking Russian players. And I could see, the Capitals, I don't know if they have a pick in the second round, but they're always a team that could take. The Canadians aren't afraid of taking Russian players. They could be another one. So, there are some teams that won't be worried about any of these things that are coming up, but he does have a lot of skill. So whatever team does get him, it will be probably in the second round. I don't see him dropping to the third. But again, there's so many guys that have done this, that have dropped into those later rounds that wasn't anticipated. It could happen. Anything happens. That's a draft, right? So. All right, let's jump to, we've alluded to it a few times here, in trades. And the Sabres have been in the rumors a lot, with most likely a defenseman and a forward, big guys that aren't going to be going for little return. Bowen Byram is a top 4 defenseman, maybe a top pairing defenseman on some teams. You're looking at JJ Peterka, a top line forward, that has a lot of more potential in the NHL. He's only 23 years old. He already has 2 25-plus goal seasons under his belt, last 2 seasons. Do you see those guys moving at the draft? It seems like one of them will be gone before training camp in the offseason at some point here. Where do you see this going?
I'm almost 100% certain that Bowen Byram will be gone by the end of the NHL draft. Whether it is in the first round or whether it's day 2, at some point he will be gone. I think JJ Peterka, they're going to wait on a little bit. The Sabres, they want to keep him. They want to sign him to a long-term deal. There's rumors and rumblings and reports coming out that he may be unhappy with the team's direction and this and that. But I don't know. Nothing's really been super confirmed, but I'm starting to get a little bit worried about how many reports there are that is coming out about him being unhappy. And the return that Peterka can get, whether he's unsigned or not, whether they just trade his rights or whether they do like a sign-in trade, you can get back a haul. And I've seen some people throw out the idea of trading Byram or whatever, go for it, right? We all know it's going to happen. You might have to ship out Peterka in order to get better. And I know that's going to be rough because Peterka's coming off a 60, 70-point season. I think he has a 80-point season at some point in his career. He's going to be a consistent 30-30 guy in this league. He has first-line winger potential if he isn't already one. But sometimes we're seeing it with Dallas where they might have to trade Jason Robertson. Or we might see the same thing with JJ Peterka where Peterka, he's just unhappy and he might eventually just ask out. Or it might be a thing where he has, I believe, 2 years left until he hits UFA status, or 3 years at the most. He might just be, I'll sign a 2 by $7.5 million deal, and after that, I'm gone. So either trade me now or I'll just walk when the deal's up. So Peterka, he doesn't have a ton of leverage in this. The Sabres can say, okay, well, we're just going to hold on to you like we want to on the team. We're not trading you. And if that's the case, then Peterka can hold out if he really wants to, because I don't think he's arbitration eligible. So I think the Peterka situation is a mess. Bowen Byram will be gone, and I think that's that.
Yeah, I do see that too. It just seems like whenever there's smoke, there's usually fire there. And you're looking at one of them getting traded pretty soon. I do see Byram being the guy that's going to be traded in around the draft, maybe on draft day. But it seems like all these big trades happen the day before the draft. We always hope that it happens on draft floor. It doesn't usually. But yeah, I really see that. The Canucks have been in that conversation with getting potentially both of them. I don't see that unless they're trading Elias Pettersson in that. It just doesn't seem like they have enough assets that the Sabres would want. Of course, they don't seem to be wanting first-round pick again. I mean, they want to be getting some NHL-ready guys. And I don't see the Canucks having anyone that they really could trade that the Sabres would say, yes, we'll take that deal over another team that may be able to give them a lot more. What do you think of, what do you see about those? I mean, the Canucks being in that conversation.
I found that interesting. The Canucks have been kind of like I guess, linked with the Sabres the past, I'd say, 6 months, or maybe even since like Thanksgiving, Christmas. Going back to the Dylan Cousins stuff being possibly packaged with Bowen Byram. Dylan Cousins gets shipped off to Ottawa. Now Bowen Byram is back linked with the Canucks. And I agree with you. I don't think the Canucks have enough assets to be like, here's Elias Pettersson plus another NHL roster player and maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick for Bowen Byram type trade, just coming off the top of my head. And outside of Pettersson, there's nothing to offer for the Canucks. And I think the Canucks, I know Bowen Byram didn't have a great season. He put up a career high in points, but analytically, I'm a big analytics guy. He was not great analytically outside of playing with Rasmus Dahlin was not good. But it seems like a lot of the league looks at Byram as a potential number 1 defenseman, and the Canucks being that way, and with the Quinn Hughes smoke and stuff about not only him potentially walking to go to New Jersey in 2 years, but also just the potential. It's a dumpster fire at this point. Quinn Hughes could ask out if it just keeps getting worse. They want to make him happy. Getting a guy like Byram, of course, makes him happy. But then you have to trade a guy like Pettersson in order to at least somewhat start talking about a trade, because you're not getting Byram without giving up Pettersson. And that's just how it is. And a lot of Canucks fans and media members, they might not like that idea, because Pettersson, we just saw him a season and a half ago come off a 100-point season. Last season, he was not good, to be honest with you. So I think there's a lot of hope for Pettersson to still end up being that elite 100-point number 1 center for them, especially with the Canucks saying that they don't really want to trade him right now unless an offer blows him out of the water. I don't think even like offering Byram to the Canucks blows the Canucks out of water. I think it's just a lot of smoke up in the air and these two teams really just being connected through trade rumors. I don't think nothing's going to materialize.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I mean, the thing is it seems like they want to keep Pettersson at least to see if he can bounce back this coming season without all the drama with JT Miller and all that stuff. I see them keeping him, but it's just interesting that rumor doesn't seem to want to go away. I mean, the Canucks and Byram being connected. Of course, Byram is a hometown guy. He's played for the Giants. He's very familiar around here. So, I mean, there's been the talk that he wants to come here. I don't know if that's true or anything. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Byram and Peterka if they both get packaged in a deal together to a team, or it's two separate trades, because either one's going to be a big one to talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to finish, you see any other trades apart from Byram and Peterka? I mean, I mentioned Alex Tuck at the beginning of the show. Anyone else that you see kind of being on the trade block? I know there's been a few other guys that have been mentioned too.
I'm going to throw out two names. One of them you did throw out, Alex Tuck. I don't think Alex Tuck is being traded. The camp started talking. They actually met at the combine, kind of starting to materialize an extension. I don't know if that extension is going to come like soon, but there is sustainable progress between the two parties. The Sabres want to throw out an extension to Tuck and give it to him. Tuck wants to stay in Buffalo. Chad Demonics of Expected Buffalo, he has reported that around $5 by $9.5 million or $5 by $9 million in that kind of range for Alex Tuck, who at the end of his deal is going to be 30 years old. So you don't want to give him an 8-year deal. It ends when he's 38. And then at some point when he's 35, 36, potentially talking about a buyout because his play is declined. And then another name that has popped up over the last few days is Mattias Samuelsson. He has missed over 50% of the team's games since signing his extension with the Sabres a few years back. And he has not been good when he's been on the ice, frankly. He's been kind of a liability at times on the ice. And the Sabres are shopping him in the trade block. And a buyout has been discussed too. I don't know if a buyout is right at this point. But if you look at the buyout, you're saving a ton of money. You're not paying him more than $1 million at most over the next 10 years to pay him not to be on your team. So I think a buyout is realistic. I don't know if the Sabres want to do that right now. But overall, I feel like they want to get at least some type of value back if they end up trading Mattias Samuelsson, whether it's a 4th or 5th round pick, whether it's, a B or C level prospect, or maybe even it's a 3rd or 4th line grinder. Who knows? But Mattias Samuelsson, he might not be on the team by training camp. Tuck, I think an extension will get done. And the Sabres, not only are they going to be aggressive in the offseason, but also I'm expecting there to be a little bit of change this offseason.
Yeah, the Sabres are going to be in the news, I think, or the rumors throughout the offseason if they don't do a bunch before the draft or on the draft. Lots of names, lots of things that they want to do. And they want to make the playoffs. That's the biggest thing. And we'll see if anything that they do in the offseason makes that happen. It's going to be tough, but they do have a lot of still a lot of young guys that could potentially do stuff. So we'll see what happens. So thanks, Zach, for coming on and talking draft, trades, lots of stuff for the Sabres. Make sure to check out everything that we've got at thehawkbears.com. Zach's writing there. He's done a bunch of targets for the draft, articles you can take a look at there. Also, lots more fun stuff in the draft guide, all that the coverage that we have for the draft and prospects, and all the offseason and free agency. It's just around the corner too. Lots of busy. It's going to be busy in the next few weeks until we get to that dull time during the offseason. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. So until our next video, we will see you next time.